Hello there, and welcome into the Sri Lanka Cricket Show with myself, Andy, and also Indoosan, who's joining, of course, from Sri Lanka, where we have an ongoing series between Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe. And obviously, the one-day series finished last week, but the T20 series is underway, and there's also been a visit from the ICC to Sri Lanka. So first of all, good evening, Indoosan.
Good evening, Andy.
Nice to have you back on the show again, and of course, we're going to be recording these shows weekly at this time from now on, rather than doing complete match reviews. We think that weekly shows is a good idea. But I think let's start with some cricket, Indoosan, and I actually missed the match, but obviously I read about it, the first T20, and
Yes,
what an unbelievable match. I mean, Sri Lanka needed 26 off the last two overs, and
yes.
halfway through the 19th over, it wasn't looking particularly good for Sri Lanka, but
Yes,
they literally pulled off a miracle, didn't they?
they did because, as you said, like not only the halfway through the 19th over, halfway through the innings itself, they were completely lost the plot. They were around 60 for four or something like that. So then the spirit of the fans were like so low. As you know, there were very less turnout for the one day matches. And even the Sri Lanka cricket have to open two stands completely free for people to just come and watch because this is after this a lot of drama in Sri Lanka about cricket, and then this rain was like threatening for washouts, so fans didn't show much enthusiasm on watching Sri Lanka playing ODI. And then the T20s, we had a lot of fans, and the atmosphere was electrifying. And as you said, like the last over was simply, it was unbelievable because Jamira came, he whacked a four right from nowhere. So that was it. And before that, we had a very good partnership between veteran Angelo Matthews and Dusun Shanaka. It's been a while that the Lord of Sri Lanka played with a lot of responsibility. So that's a good sign.
But I mean, okay, so let's just recap on the match itself. And so Zimbabwe got through to 143 for five, uh,
Mm,
and really, I guess they got off to a bit of a flyer at the start with Tanashi there
mm,
making
mm,
26. Um,
mm.
but Craig Irvine struggled a bit. Sean Williams didn't do particularly well, but then Sikandar Raza played an absolutely brilliant knock, didn't he?
He is. And I posted this video on my social media handles as well. As he got out and he was walking past to the dressing room, all of a sudden the stadium started chanting Raza, Raza, because these kind of things you never get it, especially if you are a visiting player. You hardly get it. So he's a global cricket phenomenon, and everybody loves him. So that was nice and heartwarming for us to see this unfold. Happening in front of us. But literally, he held that Zimbabwe innings. I'm pretty sure he batted with a lot of maturity. He started a bit slow, but he was punishing all the loose deliveries, and he was making sure every time there's an opportunity to break free, he was hitting. And I think he got some. So that's like around 100. Batter who is batting in the middle of T20 innings.
Yeah, mightily impressive, and 143 is not the greatest score, and I know people talk about par scores, but I never actually know what they mean by par. I mean,
Yes.
in golf, you know what par is, right? It says it on the scorecard. Whereas in cricket, everyone says it's above par, it's below par. Well, in fact, they never say it's above par. They always just say it's below par. But you know, it was a
If you
defendable
just
total as it proved to be. But just something else I wanted to pick up on was, I mean, there were some very tidy bowling figures from the Sri Lankans. You know, to restrict
mm,
Zimbabwe in the way that they did, with Zimbabwe
mm,
only losing
mm,
5 wickets, was impressive. But
mm,
I just I noted from the scorecard that Sri Lanka brought out a very new opening bowler. His name's Angelo Matthews, and he hadn't played for 3 years. And
yeah,
they immediately gave him the new ball. And I know he only bowled the 2 overs, but I mean,
mm,
first of all, why has Matthews been out of the side for 3 years? And you know, he's not exactly an express pace bowler. So why do you think?
mm.
Yeah, why was he out of the side for so long? And then secondly, why do you think they gave him the new ball?
Right. So it's a long story because when Angelo Matthews and other seniors were left out from Sri Lanka cricket um, by the management, I mean the selectors and coaches back then and all these people, because they focused on the new blood policy. Because it's fair by them. I'm not saying, I'm not justifying whether it is fair to leave Angelo Matthews behind or not, because I'm just trying to decode what according to your question, I'm trying to decode, like, what exactly has happened there. So Sri Lanka haven't won a multi-team tournament from 2015 to 2021. They only won one try series where they played against Bangladesh and Zimbabwe in Bangladesh. That's around 2017 January or 16 January, I forgot, somewhere, right? So then from there onwards, Sri Lanka didn't perform well, especially in the white ball. Red ball, yeah, they won series in Pakistan and other places and all these things, but not in red ball, white ball. So the new selectors came and said we wanted to drop all the experienced veterans, and Angelo Matthews is highly injury prone. So these are the justifications were given, but the selector said the this is not the end of road for any seniors. If they perform something extraordinary in the domestic level, we will pick them. And then they went about this thing, and we seriously saw some progress. That Sri Lanka team started winning matches. They won bilateral series. They won the Asia Cup. They actually navigated the what you call it as this qualifiers. They actually went through three qualifiers, and qualifiers are literally minefield. It's not that easy exercise anymore. So they did show some progress, and then the with the World Cup, the captaincy changed. Kusal Mendes was given the captaincy in the World Cup, and there Kusal Mendes said, "I am the one who wanted Angelo Matthews to play the World Cup. That means the 50 overs World Cup." Now we got new selectors, new captains. So they all wanted to give Angelo Matthews a chance. He's the only senior. They wanted to give him a chance, and there was so much social media noise about giving Angelo Matthews chance and not giving Angelo Matthews chance. So that's how he came into the team. So the new set of selectors said Angelo Matthews is fit enough. He will give us both bat and ball. Not only he won't play purely as a batter, he will play as an all-rounder. So perhaps they are experimenting different things because they I think we have another 6 or 5 months to go about the T20 World Cup, and once the IPL starts, a few of the Sri Lankan players, including the captain, will be going for IPL, and you can't have much series. So we need to make use of this Zimbabwe series, Bangladesh series, and the Afghanistan series, which is coming up. So they wanted to experiment everything before all these IPL and all these start, and perhaps they wanted to have a shortlisted team so that they can have a plan about the World Cup. So that's why Angelo Matthews again came, and the current captain Vanindu Hasaranga speaks a lot of good things about Angelo Matthews, and that's perhaps he might wanted to give him that new ball as well.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. And I think I mean, just again, we're going to come back to Matthews because looking back at the scorecard from Sri Lanka, chasing that 144 to win. I mean, it wasn't really good. I mean, the guys that got out, I guess, scored fairly quickly. Like Mendez scored 17 at 113 strike rate. Kusal Pereira 17 at 130. Samuel Wikrama, he was 9 off. He had a strike rate of 128. So I guess they scored quite quickly. But when Angelo Matthews came to the crease at number 6, at that time, Sri Lanka was 4 for 51. So there was still around about 97 odd runs still required. But I mean, he performed magnificently to get through to 46, and he got out in the last over. Um, just talk us through. Just talk us through what happened in those last couple of overs, because I've just been catching up on the commentary on Cricket Info, and it just sounded like a heart-stopping moment if you're a Sri Lankan fan.
Yeah. So what happened was like, as you said, when Angelo Matthews was batting, and then all of a sudden, Vanindu Hasaranga promoted him ahead of Dasun Shanaka, and he also came in. He was clean bowled in the second ball. So then Sri Lanka was like, in a phase of rebuild, and they were like going very slowly and all these things. So that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, in Sri Lanka was like, edging and going. And then I think in the 18th over, Dasun Shanaka took on Richard Engarava, and he hit him 2 boundaries, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of gave Sri Lanka a momentum, because Engarava is the one bowler who troubled Sri Lanka so much. So then the 19th over, Angelo Matthews was facing, and he hit 2 boundaries to Musarabani straight away, clean shots. But one went on an edge, but one went on a clean shot. So this kind of like the last. Sorry. So yeah, we are at the last over. So I think they were needing about 15 or 14 or something like that. And then all of a sudden they got 2 balls. Then a dot ball came. Everybody was so tensed because
Yeah,
they know
it
that they
was
need
it
another
was
boundary.
it was 14. It was 14 needed actually on the last.
Yes. So then Musarabani got Matthews out, right? So then the drama was peaked. So now I think we need around 6 runs from 2 balls. Definitely, you need a boundary. So boundary means you need a four in the fifth ball, or else you need a six, which is very dramatic.
Well,
And as per the new,
Indoosan, the other crucial thing at this point, of course, is that with the way the rules have changed now, is that you
I
know,
was about to say that.
in the old days, right? If Matthews gets caught on the deep mid wicket,
Yeah,
then
yes.
Shanaka would have been on strike, right? But in this situation, he's not
Mm.
on strike, so it's a new man facing his first
Yes,
ball.
yes. So that's where the problem came, because all of a sudden they just really came. So it's quite unbelievable that Chamira was facing the tool. You need a six because you need 6 runs to win. The first ball went on a top edge and it went for a four, right on top of the keeper's head, and then they ran two. The other one also he hit it, I think through the long on. So then they actually took 2 runs. So that kind of completed the game. So it was a very dramatic game. It finishes in a very dramatic fashion.
Incredible, and I'm just thinking about the World Cup final, and I know you're also a passionate New Zealand supporter, and
Ah,
I
give
always
me a trigger alert. Give me a trigger alert.
no, I was just thinking like I was just reading the commentary,
I know.
Chimera hits it to deep mid wicket. Martin Guptill did
Yeah,
exactly the same. Problem is Martin Guptill
exactly.
he hit it too hard and he found the fielder.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh well. And just going back to your previous comment, you said that they basically had to make the Sri Lankan cricket. This is they had to have give free tickets essentially for the one dayers. But what was it like in the ground on the first T20 match, the one we're just talking about?
absolutely. Is it the one day matches were like a neutral two teams playing, right? You hardly saw a fan there. You hardly heard a noise from the stadium. But when it comes to T20, it's almost packed. All the stadiums, all the stands are like packed, and people were making so many noises, so much flag, and people started. I heard them chanting Dasun's name, Vanindu's name. So it's like a vintage Sri Lanka fans are back, kind of. So much noise, so much energy, so much this thing, and they were applauding for Sikandaras as well. They love Zimbabwe as well to an extent. It was
Uh,
fantastic.
yeah, well, I can hear it in your voice actually. Compared to previous shows we've done, and like a washout game, for example, in the first ODI. I mean, it sounds like an absolute epic, and I know these days a lot of media outlets say, "Oh, it was a thriller," but I mean that what you've just described was unbelievable, and now I kind of feel like I want to watch a whole replay of the game.
It is. I mean, it's worth watching because it's something it's few of those games they go to that wire, and when it comes because Sri Lankan pitches doesn't offer you a very high scoring games, and when it's 140 and it's like is like 50 for not going to be a very positive sign for you, but it all happened, so
Amazing, amazing. Oh well, there's another game to look forward to in about 40 minutes from now. The second T20. So I hope that it's just as exciting for Sri Lankans and Zimbabweans for that matter as the first match was. And of course, Zimbabwe still looking for their first win on the tour. So I'm sure cricket fans and listeners to the show will be very much looking forward to watching that match again at Colombo. But just something else you mentioned to me when we were preparing for the show, you talked about an ICC visit, and I mean I'm guessing that this is something to do with the expulsion that happened. I think it was during the World Cup, wasn't it, or around about the 50 over World Cup and the ICC suddenly expelled or suspended Sri Lankan cricket. So what was this visit
mm.
all about? Who was there? Why were they there? What was the purpose of it?
ICC CEO was back in Sri Lanka. This visit was requested by Sri Lanka to have a negotiation with ICC on the ban. Maybe the way forward, how can they remove the ban and what can they do? All these things they wanted to discuss about it. So that's why they actually requested this ban because now Sri Lankan government, especially the president, has appointed a committee comprising of two cabinet ministers. That's to kind of like clear this mess around SLC and cricket in Sri Lanka. So the president came, sorry, CEO came, and he had some progressive discussion with the sports minister and few other stakeholders, and the main issue was highlighted was the sports minister's interference on SLC because he wanted a certain amount of the revenue of SLC to be shared with the sports ministry for the upliftment of the other games. If you could just take Sri Lanka, only the cricket is the one best game, and every other game has a lot of issues, and they you need to do a lot of things for them. So then that's where the rift has actually started, according to SLC. So then the current sports minister has promised him there won't be any interference from the minister's level. So then ICC has asked, okay, you are here as a minister, you give me the assurance, I pick up, I mean, I accept that, no problem. What will happen if you get changed or the government changed or you get transferred to another another area or another minister comes. So that we heard nothing concrete, but we heard SLC has promised about getting a new act on parliament on Sri Lanka cricket, and they wanted to get a new constitution where these ministers, because of the current constitution, only the ministers have to sign the teams and ministers have to sign everything. So then I think they are going to kind of give autonomy to Sri Lanka cricket with some accountability. So the new constitution is on the way. That's what we heard. And
Who was there from the ICC, Himanshu? Like which people? Do you know the names or anything?
You be the person who visited Sri Lanka.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, was it the CEO? Was it the chairman? Who actually went? Sorry, Indoosan. I mean, I think I just called you something else.
Sorry? Jeff Palatris is the one who came from ICC.
So sorry, who was it?
Jeff Aledris, the
Oh,
CEO
Jeff
of
Allardyce.
ICC.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, right. So it's a very high level meeting then.
yeah, because they this is requested by Sri Lankan government on and the sports ministry on discuss the way forward about this cricket because you can't go forever with the ban no, because they won't be able to access any funding from ICC and so those kind of things will be a biggest problem.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I think the ICC's it's sort of getting to the point now where people are starting to question, and probably have for a long time, but right now. So, for example, with South Africa, the ICC charter says that if you're a member of the ICC and you choose to be under their charter, you've got to prioritise international cricket, which South Africa clearly hasn't done. By virtue of the side they're going to send to New Zealand. Um, so sometimes I kind of wonder about these meetings and stuff, whether anything really matters, and I kind of feel like the ICC wants to get involved in certain things, but not other things. And what's your opinion of the ICC generally?
Uh, I also have a lot of reservations, as you said, because I mean, now you can see about what's happening on Pakistan. You can you can say that's a potential political interference on PCB, and you can see what's happening on South Africa, and there is something because I think you heard about the South Africa have to change their under 19 captain over a comment he made on social media about the ongoing Israel Palestine conflict. So, yeah, these kind of things, as you said, because at the same time, you can see, because in my opinion, they could have been let Kawaja where that all lives are equal symbol because there is nothing really political about it. At the same time, they wholeheartedly adapted the Black Lives Movement. So ICC is not perfect. I understand that, but that's the only governance body we have, and perhaps we need to understand what can we do about it to fix it.
Well, I just personally think in Dusan that I look at football and I look at the way that FIFA has a. I mean, football's managing a way more complicated game than cricket, right? I mean, you've got multiple continents, multiple countries, but at least you know what the
Hmm.
schedule is. I just don't understand the schedule of cricket at all anymore. I'm completely lost in the whole thing. I think there's too many World Cups, too many World Championships. It's just I think it's just lost its way, and I personally don't think that the ICC has any gravitas at all compared to say FIFA. And I know that FIFA's had its own scandals, but at least the game of football works. You know exactly when the international breaks are. You know exactly when the domestic competitions are on. You know when the African Cup of Nations is on or the Copa America. It's all known. Whereas with the ICC, it just seems so disjointed. It seems like such a mess. But that's all I have to say about that. But the last thing I wanted to ask you about, I think you're typing in the background. It's a bit noisy. Um, but the last thing I wanted to ask you about, because I know you follow New Zealand cricket very closely, what do you make of New Zealand cricket's decision to basically rest Rachman Ravindra, who's played 3 days of cricket since the World Cup, which was back in, what was it, 18th of November, I think was his last match. He's played 3 days of cricket since then, and they're not selecting him to play because they're worried about his burnout at 24 years of age. What do you make of that?
I mean, I need to go with New Zealand Cricket Board. I'm sorry about it because you understand that Rachin Ravindra was picked up for the IPL, so he will be definitely away from his home, and he will be in for a 2 months long season, and then he will mostly be playing for the World T20 as well, as you said, like. At the same issue we discussed, so much cricket's coming up and so much things coming on, so perhaps they wanted to rest him for that, and who knows, he might be playing the Australian Test series, South African Test series. Just because South Africa sent the second team to New Zealand, we can't expect New Zealand also to play a lot of youngsters there. So it might be the reason behind it because they kind of manage the workload better than any other uh, boards, in my personal view. Not because I'm a New Zealand fan, but they always do these horses for the courses. They do it precisely, and that's why they were able to, I think, almost keep a core and take kind of some additional players and took it to there. So yeah, he could have been played that Bangladesh series in my point of view. Perhaps there could have been strength in the batting because he is a handy bowler as well. So might be the reason. I also have these.
Yeah.
Um,
No, look, I just think that sometimes when you make selections, you've got to pick players in form. And I know the critics will say, "Was T20 records not any good?" But he was in form. And then when we went to Bangladesh after the World Cup, they didn't play him, and he was he was our best player by a mile at the World Cup. So, excuse me, he was in form, and he was a very, very logical choice for the Test side in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in November. They didn't play him there. Then they basically played him out of form. And then I take your point though on one thing. I take your point that Ravindra, he could be a candidate for that South Africa Test. I hadn't thought about it like the way you just described it. I think he could well be a
mm,
candidate for that test. Um,
mm,
I mean, Will Young's the incumbent opener next to Devon Conway, so I think there's a relatively good chance that Ravindra could open. But what I
mm.
also don't get is if he's got to prepare for a test match, he's got to be playing some cricket. He's not even playing for Wellington at the moment. I mean, it's just madness. Like I say, he's played 3 days of cricket since November.
Mm.
Anyway,
I get
anyway.
it, I get it, I get it. Because I mean, I want him to play as much as cricket as he can. I love playing. I love watching him play.
Yeah, well, I remember during the World Cup he had a day off, and a reporter said to him, "Oh, what did you do on your day off?" He said, "I went to the nets and practiced." You know.
Oh God, such a star boy, such a star boy. But like, I really love that aspect of him and other New Zealand cricketers. They are very very humble and they take these, you know, they take this game in a very different way. They approach and all these things.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, Indu-san, look, really, really thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks for being my co-host on the show. We're going to be bringing you the Sri Lanka Cricket Show every week at this time. So that will always be with me and Indoosan, barring a disaster or one of us ending up in hospital or something. But it's nice to talk Sri Lanka cricket, and I really appreciated your description of that first T20 match. I kind of wish I was there, and let's hope there's going to be another cracking match tonight for the second one.
Sure, sure. So I'm also expecting them to play well. So hopefully we can have a good match. Let us see.
All right, so from me and Indoosan here on the Sri Lanka Cricket Show, we're signing off on Global Cricket Radio.